Welcome to my new podcast and YouTube channel, Elwood Sports History with Greg Mingelt. I'm your host and former Panther, Greg Mingelt. Anybody who knows me knows I've been a sports lover since I can remember, and it all started in Elwood, Indiana, watching guys like Jeff Cotton, Ted Melvin, and Steve Hembry, all my neighbors and my absolute heroes. I just couldn't believe that the biggest sports stars in my world were living on my street. At the time, my Uncle John was in the NBA, but my heroes were Elwood Panthers like Phil and Tim Morgan, Wes and Kevin Bogart, and David Wills. Nothing was bigger in my world than wins over Tipton and Alexandria. My dad, who was also a Panther and will be the first guest on this podcast, was the team doctor when I was growing up, so we were at every game, home and on the road, and there was nowhere else I'd rather be on a Friday night. Eventually, the Pacers became my number one sports love, still are to this day, but the Elwood Panthers will always have a special place in my heart as my first love. So while I'm talking about the Pacers and the Colts, IU, Purdue, IndyCar, and the Fever over on the Central Indiana Sports Report, with producer Susie's help, I'll also be talking about Elwood Panthers sports history on my new channel, Elwood Panthers Sports History. We're going to be talking about the legends, the great teams, and the biggest games and events from the time sports started in Elwood around the turn of the 20th century, to telling the stories that everybody knows, like the trip to the Dome in 1987 and my Uncle John's time as an Indiana All-Star at Elwood and a three-time All-American at Auburn, and his 10 years in the NBA as a pro. But also the stories that very few people know, like Edward Wilkie, the brother of Wendell Wilkie, who wrestled in the 1920 Olympics, and the roller polo craze that swept Indiana. The Elwood Mammoths were big time in Elwood in the early 1900s. All of the stories from the Reds, the Redmen, the Blue and Red, the Maroons, the Tigers, Cardinals, Redbirds, the Eagles, the Irish Midgets, the Irish Hoosiers, the Lightweights, Elwood Battery B, our semi-pro armory team, my favorite, the Black Knights of the Holy Grail, and eventually the Panthers, though I'm still not really sure how and why they became the Panthers. The first reference to it came in the Elwood Call Leader in 1926, and as far as I know, it just kind of popped from out of nowhere. Maybe one of you historians can help us out, and of course, we're going to be talking to the people who were there, not just the star athletes, but the players who participated and the fans who witnessed it. And I can use your help telling the stories. I've published a list on Facebook of the athletes, teams, and events that are going to be priority to this podcast in the first season of Elwood Panther Sports History. Nothing against the great teams of this century, and some of the greatest of all time have come from this century, like the Dunahays, Sammy Morellis, and the great baseball and softball teams, but they'll have to wait. We want to go back to the earliest days anybody can remember and get as many stories as we can. Many that I listed are deceased, unavailable, or just don't like to talk about themselves or the old days, but I'm still going to tell the stories of those stars and the great team. Do you have a memory of a classic game? What's the event that's always been brought up at family gatherings or when you run into your old teammates? Was there a local athlete that made an impact on your life? Text me at 502-533-3161. I would love to talk to you. Please text me first and we will set up a phone call. Please include your name in the text and I will get back to you as soon as I can. I could do this thing all by myself if I needed to, but the more help I get, the better this podcast is going to be. Even if you just heard about the stories of the great 1916 football team or the 1923 basketball team that went unbeaten in the regular season and 25-1 overall, we want to hear from you. If you're around to witness the great games of the 40s, 50s, and 60s, we want to hear from you, and I can't wait to talk about the teams of the 70s, 80s, and 90s when I was growing up. Of course, a lot of the focus is going to be on the great Elwood Panthers football and basketball teams from the past, but we're not only going to be talking about football and boys basketball. I'm really looking forward to talking to the players from the 1976 girls basketball sectional championship team, including a couple of my aunts. It was the first year there was an official IHSA girls basketball sectional. 3 sectional championships in a row for the baseball team in the late 70s. I didn't even know that when I started this research. State champion Jamie Runyon and the great wrestling program over the years. And the first swim team in the late 80s. I was on that one. Can't wait to talk about all of it. But to tell the stories the way they deserve to be told, we could really use your help. Our number one request is helping share this video and our new YouTube channel. and help us locate the best possible guests for this podcast. Our channel won't be active until August, maybe even as late as September or October, but the more subscribers we get ahead of time, the better chance it's a success. History isn't only in the record books, it's sitting in your attics, your scrapbooks, and your memories. We need your help bringing Elwood sports to life. If you have an old game program, classic photos, game films hiding in your basement, we're asking you to please share those with us. More importantly, if you have a great story about a legendary game, a forgotten player, a hidden piece of Panther lore, we want to hear it. And I can do interviews in person or online. Pretty much anywhere in the world you are, we can make it happen. To really make this project everything that it can be, we could really use some financial support, some sponsors to help us build a strong foundation. Eventually, we plan to offer small monthly subscriptions and do early video releases, access to live interviews, whatever producer Susie and I can come up with for a small subscription fee. But anyway, we'll come up with some bonuses. Of course, every episode will be absolutely free on YouTube. We'll use the subscriptions, the bonuses, as a little bit of a fundraiser to help us with expenses. If you'd like to help us get this off the ground today, please text me 502-533-3161. Again, 502-533-3161, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. But this is our passion project. We are doing it regardless. If we have to fund it ourselves, just means I'll have to produce it in my spare time, so it'll take us a little longer to get the episodes out. But whether we get a flood of support or absolutely nothing at all, I am 100% committed to recording Elwood sports history, not just for posterity, mostly for your enjoyment. Susie, hopefully everybody is as excited about this as I am. This is the part where I ask everybody to please go subscribe to the YouTube page and share it with your friends. And most importantly, reach out so we can tell your story. Once again, 502-533-3161. I really hope I live long enough to tell all the great stories of Elwood's great athletes, teams, games, stories, and traditions. Elwood has such a great history, and a lot of that has been played on the athletic fields at Callaway Park, the Armory, Wilkie High, Glass Plate Field, the Stardust Roller Rink, it's true, Harry Bridges Little League, down on South P, John Ward Gymnasium, and of course at one of the coolest high school football stadiums in Indiana. Also, the Hoosier Dome, Hinkle Fieldhouse, Victory Field, the Wigwam, West Point, the Naval Academy, Antwerp and the Beijing Olympics, and the playgrounds, parking lots, open fields, anywhere else we could find a place to play, whatever game it was the other kids were playing down the street. And so many other places with athletes who's made an impact all over the world. I can't wait to tell you all about it. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to my pitch. This is something that I just really looking forward to doing. I haven't been this excited about anything in a long time. Thanks so much to everyone who's made it possible to get to this point, including current Elwood Athletic Director Ryan Van Skyok and Elwood basketball amateur historian Trent Hicks, a great player in his own right. Of course, producer Susie and my dad, who will be the first guest coming up here in a few weeks. I hope you'll help us make this the success that it deserves to be, and I'm really looking forward to working with you. And as always, it's great to be an Elwood Panther. The Elwood Panthers Sports History YouTube channel is a product of ITG Media, and I love Susie.